Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Sprint 234 review. This is a normal 2-week sprint, although we did have the Easter in between there, but I don't think any time was taken off, so let's get started. I'll start with the overview, Jeffrey on the UI, Adam on providers, and Joe on the platform. As you can see, there were well, maybe you can't see, there was 153 PRs merged this sprint with a healthy mix of enhancements and bugs. And over to Jeffrey on the UI.
Hey, in Sprint 234, a total of 14 PRs got merged into the UI Classic repo, out of which 4 are related to bug fix, 2 for enhancements, and 8 others. I can explain about them in the following slides. Next slide. We had an issue with the tags in the settings access control pages. We were not able to add newly selected items from the multi-select list. So only the first selected item would be passed down to the form and get saved. So we refactored the logic, and that makes the checks and fix this bug. We also removed a couple of duplicate DOM ID warnings and also added a new test case for the new function that we added. Next slide. Gilbert fixed an issue with the workflow credential page site nav menu item. So while on this page, the blue indicator showing what page you are on was missing, as well as the submenu would not be opened when looking at the site nav menu while on this page. Yeah, next slide. At the workflow credential summary page inside the relationship block, the repository links were not doing anything. So Gilbert fixed the link, and now we can click on it and you'll be redirected to a new page where the repositories linked to these credentials would be listed. Next slide. Gilbert fixed another issue with the embedded Ansible and embedded workflow nested list toolbars. So the toolbar buttons were not working before, like the refresh page button, refresh select repositories button, add repositories button, etc. So all these links are now working. Next slide. We enhanced the assigned tags section in the groups form page by enclosing them in a box-like structures. So we reuse the style from the service catalog tag sections. Once selecting and saving these tags, and while we are at its view page, you can see from the screenshots, like there are a few close buttons inside the blue containers, so which were not doing anything before, so we took out these close icons. Next slide. Another small enhancement was made at the worker form style pages. As you can see in the screenshots, before we had the count and the memory threshold in different rows, and now we wrap together in a single row, and few margin alignments were all fixed here. Next slide. And for the others, changes were made in the yarn.log file by upgrading the follow redirect packages from 1.15.4 to 1.15.6, and the Webpack Dev middleware from 5.3.3 to 5.3.4. We had made a few fixes into the UI components recently, and we upgraded the UI components version to 1.6.0 in the UI Classic repository. And the remaining PRs are all related to fixing the warnings for the JS test cases for the React components. And these components are MIQ, alert set structured list, tagging modifiers, custom button forms, notification message, and settings company categories. That's all from the UI side. Over to Adam.
Thanks, Jeffrey. So this sprint for providers, we added code in core to allow ASL workflow files to be seeded from plugins. So if you put a workflow ASL file into content workflows, it'll be automatically seeded into a repository, which we'll cover later. We also fixed an issue with container providers always showing 0 for the aggregate CPU and memory utilization. This is because the methods defined on the base EXE management system, we're looking to host hardware for the amount of CPU and memory, and on container providers, it should be on container nodes. So we made that fix, and so the proper values will be shown on the UI for the aggregate CPU and memory. For Amazon, they added another instance type, so we have that available now. And for Embedded Terraform, this is a new provider plugin, which is not included in the core gem file yet, but works continuing on it to get it ready. So made the initial preparations for the new repository, and we also added the ability to sync Terraform templates from Git repositories into a Embedded Terraform configuration script source. And a small enhancement to that to not have to check the repository out, but just use the Git work tree in order to find those templates and all the child files. Looking forward to seeing more from this provider in the future. Next slide. For Rev, I think Joe fixed some specs after we added a controller prefix to overt. So just got the test screen again. And for workflows, Keenan added a setting to control which runner to use in development mode. So if you have Docker, Podman, Kubernetes, etc., all available on your local system, you can use a setting in the development settings file to control which runner Flow will use when you're running it locally. And we also added a built-in workflows repository where the seeded ASL files will live. And so when you seed the provider, you'll get one built-in repository, and any seeded workflows will live there. For Flow, Keenan fixed an issue with errors not being logged to the workflows log, as well as just generally improving the logging format there. We also added the ability to pass an entire context to Flow via the command line. So if you wanted to inject anything, for example, in the execution, like the manage QAPI URL, you're able to do that on the command line now. And he also dropped non-standard fields from the context state. We added these to be able to get access to the error and cause properties, but we now get that from a different place, so we don't need to have them in the context state object, so we can keep it closer to what Amazon Lambda contexts look like, which is always a target for us. And that is it for providers. Over to Joe.
Thanks, Adam. For platform enhancements and improvements this sprint, Keenan enhanced the MIQ server recently active method so it can handle server heartbeats in the future. This was mostly to make developer testing easier, but it could also help avoid strange bugs if dates aren't perfectly synchronized between servers. Nassar added how many regions exist in an installation to the installation's audit reporting. Then Adam added a generic EVM spec helper add role. And this is to simplify how to enable a role during a context of a test. Jason updated badges for the plugin generator README. And Brandon updated the Codified's operator SDK to 1.34.1. Next slide. For platform bugs, Keenan fixed an issue in query relation where pluck would bring back all of the columns. And Nassar removed the in my region call from the aggregate CPU audit reporting, as this will be run from the global region or any unconfigured regions. So we want the cross-region information. Next slide.
And that's it for sprint 234. Our next sprint review, 235, will be on April 17th at the usual place and time. And as always, I'd like to thank all the presenters today, all of our community members. Keep up the discussions. Thanks, everyone.